Hi everyone, Corey Thorne, Spiritual Intuitive Guide, Empowerment Life Coach. It is about 12 a.m. It is quite late. It's 10 to 12 in the evening. I go close in the morning. And I just drove from Slave Lake back to Leduc, back to my home. And I've been on the road for a few days. And this weekend was a big workshop that I had taught in Slave Lake about healing our soul connection, finding that flame within ourselves, and truly connecting to the essence of our spirit and speaking our truth and finding our voice. And it's okay to be angry, and it's okay to have an opinion, and it's okay to use your voice, and that sometimes not everybody's going to like what you have to say, and that's quite okay. And so as my day was going, I never had much time to really look at social media. What's going the past few days. I really haven't had much time for my social media stuff. Sorry, I'm sticking onto the chair here. And tonight, as I'm just settling in, I was noticing some comments about everything that had happened today with the ongoing of court case, I guess, of Bill Cosby. And I was reading Marianne Williamson's Instagram post and her views, and how, when we make a choice to take a stand and we make a choice to have a view and an opinion and to speak our truth based on what we have experienced and what we know as spiritual leaders, or what we know in our truth and what we have learned, and how you get that mixed criticism, how quickly people are to jump, and how quickly we are as humans to jump in and go on either the defensive or like the attack, or to be supportive and kind of start defending. And what I noticed is how people who are supposed to be coming from such a beautiful place within our hearts quickly can turn into attacking other humans, and can start to really come into a place of being very angry, like, if you don't know what you're talking about, and blah blah blah, and quickly jumping on board on that bandwagon of why do I follow you, and da da da. And it's like, sit back and breathe. Sometimes you need to sit back and breathe before you open up into and engage into something that is projecting an anger. And what is Leah, and what is bringing that anger through in you, and what's projecting that for you? And is it really the fact that somebody else who commented before you had a different opinion? Or is it something that's mirror reflecting back on you, that's within the story or within yourself, that you're noticing that's resonating with you? And this is something that I have been watching and seeing as during my workshop on the weekend, and that mirror reflection of some of our own behaviors and some of the things that we do within ourselves. And even, excuse me, I've been sick for a few weeks, even within my own self. And as I go through my journey, and as I continue on, and as everyone knows, I'm very open and vulnerable with my story in my life, is what was my own kind of quick judgments or quick angers or quick jump in. And one of the things that I noticed, and this is kind of one of the pushes and drives for why I want to really continue into the YouTube work, and not include this so much in my Facebook work, but in my YouTube work, and that beyond the couch and from the red couch, is those stories of our whys, and where we come from, and why we behave how we behave sometimes, and that the womanly changes that happen within us and happen within our lives, and owning that goddess energy. And it's not always that the whole story will be for women, is some of this stuff really relates to men as well, but I'm telling it from a woman's view, from my perspective of living as a woman and experience this stuff. And part of what I really had to look at myself and look in the mirror about was when I was going through some of my most anxious, my anxiety moments, when I was in my depression, when I started premenopause, when I went through all of those stages, my own behavior, and how I had started to become defensive and quick judgmental and quick in passing on judgment, and just the energy that I was putting out, even though I was just in the beginning of my practice of starting to step into my healing journey, that I would find myself sometimes speaking and then saying I could hear myself. And I always would say this, I could hear myself, but I couldn't shut myself up. And I could hear I could hear these angry words, and I could hear this angry conversation, which I absolutely did not want to be having. I'm like, oh God, why? And then it was out, and then you couldn't take it back. And I noticed in that time, I mean, there was people who didn't want to be around me, and it was like people that, were good clients and that I was losing, but you couldn't, it was like, no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't stop it. And it wasn't until I had to go and start discovering for myself what it was about premenopause and menopause and the changing in life that was bringing up a lot of this stuff for me. And what I realized is that, excuse me, as I got this tickle in my throat, it was a lot about our voice and how the generations before us in women did not get to speak their truth. And so things like being depressed, postpartum depression, anxiety, menopause, premenopause, all those things were suppressed and picked up, pick up the corner rug and put it underneath the rug. And how many opportunities would women have to have spoken their truth to another woman without being judged because you didn't dare speak of that? That was private stuff. You shared that with nobody. You suffered alone. You spoke to no one about it, or you spoke to very few people. And it was never about having a solution or helping somebody through. I didn't know. And so now that we're finding women are having stronger voices, and women are speaking up for themselves, and women are finding a way, and not just, like I said, it's not just about women, men are finding themselves with stronger voices who felt they didn't have voices before either. And it's that now that we're stepping into a place of being able to step into having a stronger voice without trying to come from a judgmental place, but from the education and knowledge and learning, and that old world that us as spiritual leaders tend to channel through, is sometimes it's not that it's going to be one that is going to be agreeable for everyone, or not that you're really understanding or getting the point that's coming across. But instead of jumping in, instead of being so defensive, instead of being so quick to say, what is wrong with you? And why did you do that? And why did you speak that way? And say, well, what was your reasoning? What is behind the conversation that you're having? What is behind the energy you have today? Sometimes it's about being able to support and being able to communicate back and say, hey, you know what? I've been where you are. Are you having a shitty day? And I found myself in that again this week. So I found myself stepping into that. And when I quickly realized it really wasn't my energy, as I was picking up some of the other energies that were around, I was picking up the full moon, and it was all these things that were happening. And it was one of my clients who pointed out to me, she's like, having a bad week? I'm like, I know, actually I'm having a really good week. I don't know where that came from. But it was old energy. And so it was old stuff. And I had just read some of these comments, and I found myself being kind of disturbed by this, how, as women, we were trying to come into a place of being very supportive of each other, but how quick we can go on the attack when we don't agree with the other person. And to start to become very consciously aware of the choices that you make, and how quickly you are to speak in such a negative light, or how quickly we are to jump into engaging in the collective, right? Stop engaging in the collective. So when you see the collective starting to behave that way, you have the opportunity to change the direction of the conversation. You have the opportunity to step in with something that's more of a light, and to be more of a light. Is what happened. Is it right? We don't know what's, we don't know all of everyone's truth. What we know is what we read. What we know is what we see. What we know is the information that we're being given. And what we do know right now is we're watching situations and changes being made where justice is being served. So if justice is being served, we can't be coming from the place of being so resentful. We need to come from a place of stepping even more forward and saying, okay, if justice is served, let's take it a little step further, right? And it's like engaging in the conversation of how we can even improve on the justice system, how we can improve on making it even better, how we can make those differences, or how we can be supportive to the victims, or how we can be supportive with having a healthy voice that projects in the proper light and being able to stand up for ourselves. And it was only yesterday in my work, in my thoughts, that I had a memory that came up for me, and it was about early in my life, early in my being out, in your dating scenes and your early sexual experiences, where I had kind of pushed aside the fact that someone had mistreated me, and I kind of put it aside as, oh, well, because I was dating them, it should have been okay. And I had told that story, and I kind of been told that story for a lot of years. And so as I was going through the healing thing with the group that I was teaching, that having that voice at 20 years old or at 21, whatever it was, having that voice at that age, I could only wish I have the voice that I have now to had it at that age. And so I had to go back and honor that version of myself of not having the voice to be able to speak up at that time. But I have a voice now. And I don't project anger and hate back into the 21-year-old. I take the knowledge that I have now and moving forward with the knowledge that can make a difference in people's lives, and that can make a difference in big ways, and maybe somebody else, some other woman's life, or some other young man's life. Is where do you find your strength? And a lot of times our strength is in, most 90% of the time, our strength is in our voice, but our strength is also in our heart. And having compassion and kindness is the most powerful that we can have. And where are we going to show up and have compassion and kindness? And when we're seeing it come through in steady comments of people that who outright say, I live this good life, but we're so quick to jump on the bandwagon. Don't be so quick to jump on the bandwagon. Think of some other way. What else? What opportunity is showing up for me here to shine in the light, or to stay in, to speak from a place of honest and authentic, without engaging in the collective of what's happening right now. So finding your powerful voice, being that strength. And so it's something to really start to pay attention to as we move into, we just come through the full moon, and as we're moving into the next few days, and I am teaching this coming weekend, and so when I teach, it is about being strong and powerful in my light, and being truly able to be that, to hold that space for the people that are coming through to do the sessions that they're doing. And where are you, how are you showing up to hold space, or who's holding space for you? And so the thing that really arises to me is we're here to create a safe environment, not a fear-based environment, and we don't build a safe environment or a safe life or a safe world by living in fear. And it's time for us to let go of the fears and the angers and start to look at the beautiful things that we have, and to live in love and light, and to be the support that people need when they're going through some of the hardest times in their lives. And to be support means is not to engage in anger with them and say, hey, you know what, just go out and be angry at the world forever. Is how can we be supportive in the most loving and kind way? And this is about And this is truly about now finding ways to be loving, kind, and compassionate to those who need us to be there for them, and asking Spirit and to really join us and to embrace us and to wrap us and to keep us safe, but also asking Spirit to guide our conversations, and knowing we don't know the outcomes all the time, and we don't know what's going to happen, and we don't know when we put our children out there into the world exactly what their lives will be, but we can't put our children out there into this space, into this world, with feeling as if they have to be afraid every day, to live in fear, or to be on the defensive and the attack. If we teach them to come from a place of love and light, and to be very aware of their surroundings, and to be very well educated in what's happening in the global community, without having to get into the collective of fear of how dangerous and awful the world is, but how beautiful their own light is, and to teach them that strength within, and so they start to see the beauty, and then they all become the changes that the world wants to see, or what the world is now here to, what we're here to put out into the world. So this generation is a little bit healthier and stronger than the generations before, and we've all, no matter which generation that was walking before, there was always that resistance, and you're always getting met with that resistance, and so resistance will always be there, but so will cooperation, so will be the drive to push forward, so would be open-mindedness in certain areas, but most of all, it is truly about connecting to Spirit and really knowing that your strong connection to Source, to Creator, to God, whatever it may be for you, and creating a strong foundation underneath your feet are the strongest things you can, are the most powerful things that you can do. And then having an open mind and open heart to engage in conversations in the most beautiful way that you know to do. When we do not know better, we do not do better. We do not do things better. But when we know better, we can change the world. And this is the area that we really need to stay focused in and start to see, like this hawk spirit is like, let Spirit guide you. And that's what my card was, and that's why I keep looking down at this hawk. And I seen probably 50 hawks as I was coming back driving tonight. And then as it got dark, I'm like, well, now I can't see you. I don't know where you guys are. And I was seeing so many. I'm like, no, they're there. I know they're there. They can see me. I have to trust that they're there, and they're guiding my way, and they're still that. They're giving me the reminders of how important it is to stay connected to Spirit and connected to this journey that we're on, and this changing and this evolving world that's happening. We are evolving, so it's looking at it in the light of, with or without us, it's going to evolve. So let's live it in a beautiful light instead of living it in a fearful light. And then the other card that I pulled was the Bobcat Spirit. Life is a mystery. We're not always going to know the outcomes. We're not always going to know if it's the right decision. We're not always going to know if it's the truth or if it's an illusion. We don't know everything, and we're not supposed to know exactly what's all ahead of us. But one thing we do know is that we can have a strong faith and a belief, and that change is happening, and change is happening in a good way, and change is going to take place with or without us. So if we let go of control, free ourselves of that, free ourselves of the fear, we will see the change, and we will be the change that starts to happen. But it's the change that happens inside of you first. Be that change. Where in your life can you start to be the change in your life that makes a difference and an impact within this world? I'm going to pull one more card. And this is from the self-care card, because this is about self-love, self-care. Sometimes, stepping back from that quick jump in on the offensive or on the defensive side, crossing over into being offensive, and stepping back and saying, okay, let me think this through. Let me think about this. what I'm pulling. It's time. Time. Schedule a sacred date with yourself. You deserve time for your life. And it's, when we're well rested, when we're taking time to sit in our own self-love and to nourish ourselves, we will have more clarity in our decisions and more clarity in what we're going to do, and we won't be so quick to jump on the bandwagon of being defensive, offensive, and anger and fear. We'll be more willing to take, because we're rested and we're able to think, to take a stand in a healthier way. And then courage. Look at this. Courage. Freya. Take the leap. Your courage will see you through. Have the courage to speak your truth. Have a courage to have a strong voice. Have a courage to stand up in a strong way. And when you take the leap to be able to stand up in a strong way, you're always going to know that there's always going to be somebody who's going to try to take you down for having, or try to shut you up for having your own voice. Or the one thing is doing that shh to you. Right? Is that shutting you up, trying to, but don't let that stand in your way. Stay into that. Call upon your goddess and be that lion, lioness, whatever you may be, to really stand strong in your own strength. And sometimes our vulnerability is one of the strongest things that we have. Being vulnerable, telling your story, speaking your truth, and really knowing that it's not about saving somebody else or not wanting to hurt somebody else. If it's hurting you and it's destructive to you, then it's something that it's time to let go. And it's something that it's time to move forward from in the best way that you can. And that's by speaking your truth and telling the honest truth in your version of your story. And so as you start to go for it, I don't know why I keep turning around to look at it, and I'm like, I know so many women. My daughter's one who is this strong presence. I know some very strong women, and I've seen some of these strongest women have to go through some of the hardest times, but I also know some really strong men who are very strong in their feminine energy and being able to be vulnerable and not afraid to cry. And sometimes our tears, the cleansing away, is actually stepping us into a stronger sense of ourselves. So, as we're moving into, it feels odd to be home on a Tuesday. As we're moving into the middle of the week, and tomorrow's hump day, is kind of look at your own conversations or your own words that are coming out of your mouth. And remember, are they healthy? Are they serving you? And do they make you feel proud that you're having the conversations that you're having? Are they healthy words? And take a look at what kind of conversations you're engaging in this week, and that we have a choice, a conscious choice to be very aware and to change up so that we match our words and our thoughts so that we can live in a healthier place and we can feel a lot better when we walk out of a conversation and we're not feeling like, oh God, why did I behave that way? Or why did I think that way? Or why did I speak that way about myself? Right? And finding that for yourself. Have a lovely middle week, and I will see you all in a few days. Actually, tomorrow you'll see me on my Instagram TV, and hopefully I will make it to my YouTube or my Facebook Live tomorrow. So have a wonderful night and I guess a wonderful morning, and I will see you all later. Thank you.